Hey guys, this is Allison from Alley Cat Creations. How are you? Please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. That'd be amazing. And if you would like to support my work, all the links will be linked down below. I got work. The weather is changing, and her lumpy paw from fighting me in the cat carrier. Oh boy. So she's resting. Ethan's under the bed. But new temporary digs. If you didn't catch my video earlier, I'm in limbo. Anywho, I'm going to read Coming World Changes, my favorite authors, the Curtis family. Today, we're going to start on chapter 3, the philosophy of planetary changes. It should be juicy. Quote, esoteric science teaches that every sound in the visible world awakens its corresponding sound in the invisible realms and arouses to action some force or other on the occult side of nature. The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky. Quote, this know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, courteous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, despisers of those that are good, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of holiness, but denying the power thereof. Timothy 2. Quote, I will pray with the Spirit, and I will pray with understanding also. End quote. 1 Corinthians. Truth be told, here we are. In the previous chapter, we have pointed out the changes in the surface of the globe are normal, periodic, cyclical, and inevitable, owing to the necessary rearrangement of the land and water areas as the axis of Earth slowly swings from the perpendicular to the horizontal and back again in the cyclical arc of revolution. Esoteric philosophy teaches distinctly that after the first geological disturbance of the Earth's axis, which ended in the sweeping down to the bottom of the seas, the whole of the second continent, with its primeval races, of which successive continents or Earth's Atlantis was the fourth. There came another disturbance owing to the axis again resuming its previous degree of inclination as rapidly as it had changed it. When the Earth was indeed once more raised out of the waters, there have already been 4 such axial disturbances. The old continents, save the first, were sucked in by the oceans. Other lands appeared. The face of the globe was completely changed each time. The survival of the fittest nations and races were secured through timely help, and the unfit ones, the failures, were disposed of by sweeping off the face of the earth. These great continental cataclysms are related to the major or root races in sidereal year of nearly 26,000 years. Every sidereal year, the tropics recede 4 degrees in each revolution from the equinoctial points as the equator turns through the zodiacal constellations. It has seen 2.5 degrees to run before the end of the sidereal year. This gives humanity in general and our civilized races in particular a reprieve of about 16,000 years. Therefore, it is not a general continental cataclysm that is facing humanity at this time, but a relatively minor, although extensive one. For the subraces are also subject to the same cleansing process and the same branchlets or family races as well. And it is the changes due at the winding up of such a subrace, the fifth, that at hand day to day. To the students who are not familiar with the cosmic philosophy of the order of the Christian mystics, who are not accustomed to a planetary viewpoint instead of a local and therefore very limited one, it may seem fantastic to assert that the thoughts and actions of humanity have anything to do with storms, earthquakes, and cataclysms. But a deeper study of the law of cause and effect, called karma, and of the radioactivity of living forces will show this is so. The forces of nature operate in a rhythmic and cyclical manner, season following season, with the precision of a gigantic cosmic clock. These changes normally came about in a harmonious manner. The snow falls greatly to blanket the earth, protect the seeds from winter killing by the intense cold, and to fill nature's reservoirs with moisture for the coming season. The rain descends to refresh the earth and its children and supply them with water. The wind blows mildly or strong to circulate and purify the atmosphere according to the meteorological conditions in peace and harmony and cooperation. But there are great clouds of inharmonious mental and magnetic force have been generated by mankind. They tend to find expression through the forces of nature, and thus the equilibrium and rhythmic harmony of nature is upset, and destructive expressions of normally constructive nature forces take place. Let us keep in mind that the heresies of Galileo's day are now universally accepted scientific fact. If the seemingly absurd theory that such vastly remote causes as storms in the photosphere of the sun, sunspots, can so upset the magnetic balance of the earth and its atmosphere as to produce marked climate changes, has been proved and true, accepted as scientifically correct. If the invisible radiations of human thought exert a sufficiently physical force to affect a photogenic plate and produce a scotograph of the thought held at the time, as the hundreds of experiments of Dr. Barduk in Paris, is it any more strange or unreasonable to assert that an accumulation of millions of such streams of thought force of an intensely inharmonious character should affect and upset the harmonious balance of nature forces and find expression in destructive storms? For it is thus that nature becomes an agent of the execution of karmic law, which brings to mankind the results of the forces it has generated. All religions and philosophies teach as a fundamental law that whosoever a man soweth, that shall he reap, both individually and collectively, and usually through such apparently natural events as those of nature. The law of radioactive nature of thought and the power of the broadcasting to produce physical results was well known to the ancients and is especially taught in many places in the Bible. For example, Jeremiah tells us, quote, "Hear, O earth, behold, I will bring evil upon this people, even the fruits of their thoughts, because they have not hearkened unto my words, nor my law, but reject it." End quote. Again, speaking of blessings expected, he tells us that, quote, "Your inequities have turned away these things, and your sins have withholden good things from you." End quote. "Curse not the king, not in thy thought, for a bird of the air shall carry the voice, and that which hath wings shall tell the matter." And an occultist or a philosopher will not speak of the goodness or cruelty of providence, but he will nevertheless teach that it guards the good and watches over them in this and future lives. and that it punishes the evildoer so long indeed as the effect of it having thrown into probation even the smallest atom in the infinite world of harmony has not finally adjusted. But the only decree of karma, an eternity and immutable decree, is absolute harmony in the world of matter, as it is in the world of spirit. It is not therefore karma that rewards or punishes, but it is we who reward or punish ourselves, according as we work with, through, and along with nature, abiding by the laws of which harmony depends or breaking them. As we have said elsewhere, when storms, earthquakes, tidal waves, volcanic outbursts, or catastrophes of other kinds take place, many say, behold the work of God. How insignificant is man? This is false. God never made a storm or a catastrophe of any kind, for God is the great law of love. They are all evidences of man's power. Had man never sent out evil thoughts, wicked words, blasphemies, and curses, the earth's aura could never be so charged with the destruction forces that a catastrophe was necessary to dissipate them and bring about equilibrium. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. Although the tornado is a result of the inharmony and impurity created by man, still it is used as an agent of karma to dissipate the accumulated forces of evil and to readjust the atmosphere and permit new conditions more advantageous for the evolution of the planet and its inhabitants to manifest. The tornado was not the cause of the destruction of life and property in its path. It was merely the agent for adjusting the causes set up by the man. The fundamental idea of karma is harmony. It is not a punishment, nor even an inevitable law of suffering, which you must endure. Not one of punishment for past failures, but that you may learn your lessons and gain as quickly as possible the soul qualities needed that you may fulfill your destiny, your special place and work in the grand plan. With this belief survey of the psychical law of geological, changes in mind, the point we wish to emphasize is that which such geological changes are due to take place, it rests with harmony how these changes shall come about gradually and harmoniously, or suddenly in cataclysmic. Sorry, guys, I did not come out that well. As one called the king of the world told us in a talk some months ago, quote, the time is coming shortly when there must be wonderful changes take place in the earth. These changes can be made in peace and quietness, but man forbids. We wait for the new day to come, and the great tiger, who is my footstool, who sleeps beneath my feet, crawls out and gives his cries. And when these cries are heard by the children of men, fear quickens in their hearts, and their blood runs cold like ice water, and they run to and fro crying out for the mountains to fall upon them as the mighty changes take place. But the all-powerful one never meant it to be thus. Quote, the changes we must have, but they should come like the changes between day and night, like the coming of the gentle dawn as the stars one by one withdraw their light as they draw back the curtains of the night and say a beautiful and smiling adieu to the earth. And thus, those who are watching the tides of the ocean hear them lap soft sentences and whisper murmuringly in the ear gentle blessings for what the night has brought forth. Then the sun comes up and out of the ocean where it has hidden its face and looks upon the handiwork. This is the way of the changes coming. End quote. This is the law of God Almighty, the all-powerful one, has willed it. So, and all creation should go on in rhythmic harmony and beauty. one day after another, as the mystery of understanding is brought forth. But alas, humanity's consciousness has stopped this, for it cannot understand the words and sounds. The tones of the words may fly up to the throne of the eternal ever-living one, but their hearts, which gave utterance to them, are like locked doors. O ye men of earth, O ye women of earth, why are ye like dumb, driven cattle, seeking for your substance by ravening one another, baying at the moon, huddling together in the darkness of night, seeking in the caverns and crevasses of the earth for treasure, only physical treasure, the only treasure that God, the Almighty Everlasting One, has given to man is the treasure of his words. Can you wonder then if the changes from one great cosmic day to another come like crashes, come like the dissolution of the foundations of the earth? It should be remembered that recent investigations into the radioactive power of mental forces teach us that the magnetic currents which sustain the crust of the earth can be so upset and made to fluctuate by the powerful through subtle vibrations generated by mankind, that the vast structural changes which are inevitable are precipitated cataclysmically. On the other hand, harmonious vibrations generated by humanity through love, brotherhood, cooperation, and definite currents of construction and constructive cosmic energy, which can be invoked through prayer and aspiration, as testified by all religions in all ages, tend to neutralize the inharmonious and destructive vibrations and sustain the normal earth currents, while the natural and cyclical changes in the earth's surface do not come as punishment for man's sins, for our God is a God of love and mercy. Yet the radioactive power of man's evil and destructive vibrations can so unbalance conditions that may precipitate normal changes to a cataclysmic manner. In addition to this, we know that we have already entered the great cycle during which the axis of the earth is slowly returning to its former horizontal position, preparatory to closing of or golden age of this world period, or Manvarata, when perpetual summer will again reign, as it did in the opening golden age of humanity. Although this final result will not be reached until the time of the seventh great race, thousands of years hence, nevertheless, the process has already definitely begun, and the changes have and will be sufficiently rapid to give the sixth sub-race of the present Orion race its a minor golden age. But the changes foreshadowed in the prophecies may well be close at hand, much sooner in years than many imagine. Pause. So we are currently the sixth sub-race. And the golden age that everybody's talking about, well, it's just like the densities. There's sub-octaves, sub-octaves, and octaves. Mind-blowing. And they've written this in like 1915, 1920. Just put that spin on that. Like what they're saying happened. Naturally, those who do not correlate with the new spiritual keynote now set for the coming sixth sub-race will tend to go from one excess to another, as seen in the present jazz age, and from one disbelief to another, disbelief in God and in spiritual beings and forces, disbelief in religion and law, in medicine, in cooperation, in unselfishness, and in good. In fact, everything but selfishness, self-indulgence, and physical force. All those who refuse to set a higher spiritual standard and vibration for their thoughts, their lives, and their conduct, together with those whose karma is such that it would not be just or kind of the great law to expect them to make so great an advance in short of time will naturally be removed, so that the more spiritually advanced ones who are left will be insufficient majority to dictate the principles and ideas under which the surviving mankind shall exist and govern unhampered by the ridicule and opposition of those who cannot comprehend such ideals. Instead of allowing the decisions to be made by those ignorant of fundamental spiritual principles or those who refuse to follow them because their minds are inflamed by selfishness, greed, hatred, and revenge, real world progress cannot be made until the best of humanity as a whole is the basic consideration of conference among nations. What's going on right now? This is what we need to get to. Just as there are two great currents of force winding around the spiral column and crossing over at a certain centers in man, as symbolized by the serpents of the caduceus, so there are corresponding magnetic currents slowly traversing the earth from pole to pole, and with corresponding crossings at certain cycles. As these crossings take place, they cannot fail to bring about great changes, unsuspected and little understood conditions, both in man and the planet. One of the reasons why we are expecting such radical changes is because the Earth is now approaching such a crossing over of great planetary currents. For in the history of the Earth, these periods have always been marked by terrific changes involving earthquakes, intense volcano outbursts, Mauna Loa, unreasonable weather with intense heat or bitter cold, and many other unusual conditions. These will seem more widespread than in former times because our more universe needs of communication. These periods have also been marked by a great dominance of mind over spirit and stamping out almost entirely all of the represents of the divine mother side of life, the spirit of divine love and compassion. And just as the individual who puts his full attention upon the development of mind and uses the powers thus gained to achieve personal aggrandizement and power to dominate others, the result must be a fall and death of temporary forgetting of all that has been accomplished. So it is in with nations and peoples. If in the past, the ambition of the great nation to dominate the commerce, wealth, and power of the world could bring on the last world war, so today the ambition of a great nation to seize and dismember other nations as a step toward dominating the Mediterranean Sea may well precipitate conditions which will consolidate the people of Asia against Europe, and so lead to the fifth great Asiatic invasion, so frequently prophesied as recounted on pages 20 through 23, 56 through 57, which we did. Such another world war, in it now, will be sufficient to unbalance the earth currents already still fluctuating from the effects of the last great war and precipitate catastrophes in Europe and the Near East. For some forces, which were the instruments through which the catastrophes at the last crossing over were brought about ages ago, are now about to complete another turn around the globe and another crossing over. And if such a crossing over is not accomplished normally, if it is perturbed by the destructive vibrations of intense aggrandizement and antagonism and hatred of the whole nation, of injustice, bloodshed, and all horrors of other world war, and may result in disaster, which will wipe out whole nations and necessitate a reconstruction of civilization by those who are left. In a certain sense, These two great earth currents act as the currents of past and future karma. The karma of ancient Lemuria, which is now slowly rising in the Pacific, and must needs meet and conquer the karma which sunk it. While the great continent has remained beneath the waters, undergoing its physical cleansing, its peoples have been incarnating in later races, learning great lessons. Yet everyone now in incarnation who was associated with the fall of Lemuria will be more or less affected by the coming changes. The great law, which has been their guide throughout succeeding ages, which has sustained them in their effort to redeem their karma, will still guide and sustain them wherever it is best for them to be. For no one who has stricken sincerely to face and work out the old karma and advance spirituality and help make the world better for all mankind, but will take care of whoever their inner guidance impels them to live. Therefore, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which will shew you today. Some few students who do not sufficiently understand our philosophy have written that the sweeping away of thousands or millions in the coming storms, plagues, disasters, cataclysms was a terrible and horrible idea to contemplate. Although over 10 millions were killed in the late World War and over 52 million more died from after effects, famines, plagues, with 140 million injured, or a total of more than 10% of the world's population. But even if the prophecies were fulfilled in a day, those thus removed from the physical manifestation would only be reaping the results of the causes as nations and peoples have set up. Even this scientifically has retribution would not be in evidence that they have been deserted and condemned by the God of divine love and wisdom, which is also justice, or rather had been removed to make them cease generating further results of that kind and to give them an opportunity to see the unhappy results which their wrong standards of thought and action had brought about, and to learn their needed lessons and prepare them for more positive spiritual advance in subsequent incarnations. That's going. Those who refuse to heed the warnings and suffer now were among those who helped to generate the causes of inharmony, which made the earth changes focalize in their particular region and involve them, even though they were apparently innocent in this life. Far from the being a time to eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. It is a time for prayer and meditation, for the radiation of definite spiritual forces, for a spiritual and moral house cleaning for both individuals and nations, if the disasters are to be minimized. Our readers, however, should have no fear of these catastrophes, for we have explained why and how these seeming disasters are but an outworking of the great law, and that since there is no death to the soul, the sweeping out of incarnation or even millions of souls may be for the greatest good and in the greatest love. For such a removal from earth life would give them an opportunity to learn greater lessons and make greater progress before their next incarnation than the longest possible life on earth, especially in its present unset condition, could bring about. Such catastrophes would also bring about a great development of love, sympathy, brotherhood, and cooperation in those who are left behind. Yeah. Chapter 4, the King of the World. Quote, and though the Lord gave you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner any more, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers, and thine ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, This is the way. Walk ye in it. End quote, Isaiah. Quote, press on, my warriors, fear not the fray. We are the conquerors, our voice obey. Sound loud the trumpets blast, happy and free. Tell of the day, star, that is destined to be, end quote. Harriette Augusta Curtis in Realms of the Living Dead. We're reading that currently on this channel. In his remarkable book, Beasts, Men, and Gods, published in 1922, Dr. Ferdinand Ossendowski, formerly professor of chemistry and economical geography in the Polytechnic Institute of Petrograd, and later professor of chemistry at the Polish University at Warsaw, reports a prophecy given as far back as 1890 to the Huktuktu of the Narbalanchi Monastery in Mongolia by the great unknown, who throughout Asia is called the King of the World. This prophecy described the conditions that were coming to humanity during the following 50 years, dyslexic moment there, 1890 through 1940, much of which was literally fulfilled during the World War of 1914-18 as follows. Quote, more and more people will forget their souls and care about their bodies. The greatest sin and corruption will reign on earth. The crowns of kings, great and small, will fall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There will be a terrible battle among all peoples, the world war. The seas will become red, the earth and the bottom of the sea will be strewn with bones. Kingdoms will be scattered, whole peoples will die. Hunger, disease, crimes unknown to law, never before seen in the world. The ancient roads will be covered with crowds wandering from one place to another. All the earth will be emptied. God will turn away from it, and over it there will only be night and death. Then I shall send a people now unknown, which shall tear out the weeds of madness and vice with a strong hand, and I will lead those who still remain faithful to the spirit of man in the fight against evil. They will find a new life on the earth, purified by death of nations. The King of the world will appear before all people when the time shall have arrived for him to lead all the good people of the world against all the bad. But this time has not come yet. The most evil among mankind have not been born. End quote. It's going right now. Who is the king of the world? Who's the king of the world? We're going to find out very soon. In an article in the Century magazine for December 1923, Professor Ossendowski states that among various Asiatic peoples, there exists a watchword proclaiming the superiority of the spiritual strength of the East and affirming the necessity of forcing all humanity to accept its will and its world outlook. Even at the cost of general blood spilling, even by hurling Asiatic multitudes upon the nations rotting in the bog of European civilization. Quote, accordingly, at the fires of the nomad shepherds of the prairies in the Tanzdam marshes in northern Tibet, in the Himalayas, on the banks of the Hind and the Ganges, in Asia Minor, in Iran, in the valleys of Yangtze and Ho Po, people of different colors, tribes, races, and creeds, but united by the common bond of Asiatic ideology. Talk, discuss, sing, and dream about the approaching hour when the hand of the Asiatic will be the hand of karma and will execute the decrees of fate to an attack against the white race, an attack which is the dream of some Asiatic circles. At all events, it is most then probable that the white race will be obliged to reckon with the influence of the now only legendary king of the world. Whoa. The later part of the above prophecy seems to collaborate with the prophecy of Mr. Comer regarding it as an Asiatic invasion, as given upon page 23. During her remarkable visit to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, Alexandra David Neal relates that hatred of European is sown in many remote corners of Asia. Many partisans stand ready to support the expected warrior Messiah, who, according to the prophets, will arise before long in the northern land, unite all Asia under his victorious sword, and cast out the impure, demonical Westerners. Interesting. Already, the Japanese called a Pan-Asiatic Union conference to meet at Nagasaki on August 1st, 1926, designed to bind the nations of the Orient in the same sort of fashion as the Pan-American Union links the nations of the Western Hemisphere. There is unfortunately an ominous ring in the title of the Pan-Asiatic Society. There is considerable justification for the apprehensions, but not as yet for the accompanying fears. The unity and peace of Asia are the objectives of the leaders who hope sooner or later to bring about a serious Asia for the Asiatic situation. In our lesson for December 1922, we gave out a prophecy given to the order of the Christian mystics by the same mysterious king of the world, which reads as follows, quote, I see a great disadvantaging and devastating flame sweeping the world from east to west, a flame of fire, a flame of sword, and famine and murder and bitterness and death. I see the peoples of the earth, each one with its hand lifted against its brother, each country seeking for its own, men dying and cursing God with every dying breath, and sowing the seed of a new, more frightful flames. I see descending from on high the mighty angel with the flaming sword, for only fire can purify hate. I see this flame of purification sweeping the earth from east to west, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the sun. 5 countries are left. The rest sink beneath the seas. 5 countries, 5 lands, like fingers on a man's hand. 4 shall be great and 1 small, but out of the smallest there grows the greatest light. Then comes redemption. Then comes that which alone can make this world to be reborn once more human, like a babe laid in a manger, cradled in its mother's arms. I see a great mountain lifted up in the midst of the countries which are left. From its top there radiates the light of the spiritual sun, and I see the remnants of mankind bathed in its radiance. Think not that any country in this broad world can escape. The flames sweep onward and over. Only those who have the flame of the living Christ in their hearts shall survive. I speak for this is my world. Into my hands it has been given. I stretched out my hand, and each finger represents a point of force, a place where the great living power of the sun has breathed into it the life of fire, which is immortal. Where are my children? They are dying. They are being murdered and starved. They are being scattered like sheep on a cold, bare mountain tops, homeless, friendless. For a time, I bow to the inevitable. I wait, that a greater than I may read you, riddle of this dark star. End quote. It was at first thought that the king of the world was the planetary ruler of Earth, but later instruction from the king himself explained he was a great Atlantean master who had passed through the process of physical regeneration and so was able to retain and renew his physical body indefinitely. During the ensuing ages, he had developed greater and greater powers and has been entrusted with greater and greater tasks until he became the chief representative of Earth, of the celestial ruler of our globe. Since the publication of this prophecy in December 1922, we have many inquiries for further details as to the prophecy, but few further details can be given. Remember, the prophecy did not come from the teacher of the order of Christian mystics, nor from the coming avatar, but from the representative of the planetary ruler of this globe, the Earth. And those few who heard it were too greatly awed to ask for details during that brief visit. The only details that we can give is that the country represented by the little finger was not Japan, as some supposed, but probably some part of Western North America. The special region cannot be indicated until after the rising of Lemuria and settling and readjustment of the continent. To us, the prophecy indicated that which will come to pass if humanity persists in its present course and continues to send out destructive vibrations of inharmony, antagonism, hatred, selfishness, and greed, instead of the constructive vibrations of brotherhood and cooperation, that the later are the most vital needs for the world today, is corroborated by the United States senators, officials, and prominent businessmen after returning from Europe, who practically agree with Senator McCormick of Illinois, who was quoted as saying that, quote, more important to rehabilitation of Europe than any conference, than any agreement between statesmen and financiers can be, in the exorcism of the spirit of hate and greed which animates governments and peoples, unless the peoples are moved by a Christian will to peace and by a Christian comedy, there can be no real peace in Europe. End quote. While the Earth children are scattered through all countries, they are most concentrated in the Far East. They are concentrated in Asia because they are less mingled with children of other planets, and hence are able to correlate more readily with the consciousness of Earth and come more fully under guidance of their king, where in certain sacred monasteries, he has appeared and given personal instruction. There must be judged as good or bad, not according to Western standards, but according to their obedience or disobedience to the principles of their religion. By Earth children, we do not mean those in this incarnation are born astrologically under Earth signs, for we must all incarnate many times under all astrological signs, ere mastery is obtained. The Earth children are those who came to this planet primarily because, through affinity, it was their natural habitat. These souls naturally owe allegiance and worship to their divine progenitor. Hence, we find them following such exclusively the forms of worship and religion, ethics and morals inspired by the progenitor. At the same time, we know there are millions of souls of Earth who come from all other planets of this system and some from other systems, attracted to this newest field of experience. Some few advanced souls volunteering to come to act as helpers and teachers of mankind, but the majority to gain the new and much needed experience of Earth conditions. Try to picture to yourself this great truth. See the little planet of Earth newly born, born from the accumulated stardust and meteors, from the leftovers cast off from other greater and mightier systems, passing through its fiery birth and within its bosom, holding the germs of living powers, each destined to play its part in the great drama which is now being staged thereon. Some may be born of the very earth itself, and with the essence of the earth spirit breathed into them. Others may have traveled eons of ages through time and space from far distant planets and systems. There may be voluntary chosen and unconsciously given up their soul home and their realization of the great planetary being who is their father, that they might come to help on the evolution of this new and infant world. Nevertheless, the instant they enter the earth's aura and commingling in its force, they become clothed in earth materials, and this earth covering blinds them into forgetfulness of that which they have left behind. In view of the above, we can now understand why the destructive aspect of the flame of purification will spread from east to west and will ultimately sweep all nations, each suffering according to the amount of inharmony, brotherliness, antagonism, and evil there is to be consumed. We can correlate with the flame and make the fire our servant only as we strive to become the divine fire of the living Christ and willing allow it to burn from us all in harmony and purity, all that holds back the manifestation of our real and divine self. Damn. Once we have grasped the idea that the flame consumes only that which is evil or which must be transmuted to make room for the divine life and joy of those who fearlessly face self and bravely strive to conquer all that is not in harmony with the law, then like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, even though we seem bound hand and foot and thrown into the midst of the fiery furnace, the flames of purgation now sweeping the earth. When the morning of the new day dawns, we all will be found walking free in the midst of the flame because of the Lord Christ walks within us. Damn. Okay, so these people back in 1922 knew about starseeds, wanderers, volunteers. Serious? I just read it. What? Wow. Just wow. They just told you. 1922. They're talking about starseeds and wanderers and volunteers. So Dolores Cannon isn't wrong. A lot of the channels aren't wrong. What? Okay, mind blowing. It's time for me to retire. I have a very early day tomorrow. Going to get an address as a P.O. box and look at some houses. Fun. So sending each and every one of you love and light. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. This is prolific, profound reading right here. This is amazing. Please read the book. I have the links. This is just wow. So until next time, guys, and that won't be weeks, days. I'll try to get another one in tomorrow. But until then, have a safe, magical Friday, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.